We're joined now by a very, very special guest, Sharmila Tagore, somebody who's known him personally, has worked with him for decades. Sharmila ji, it's wonderful to speak to you. I wish it was on another occasion, but I must ask you. You and Dharamji shared the screen in so many classics. Anupama comes to mind, for example. What was it like working with his magnetic energy for the first time? Bring us to that first time, and how did that shape your approach to several of the roles where you co-acted with him?
I worked with him for the first time in Anupama, and it was such a wonderful experience because he was such a wonderful, easy person to work with. I was very, very new myself, and before that, I worked with him in Deol. That is much before Anupama in the 60s, and again 7 films with him. And he's been just wonderful, wonderful person, wonderful actor.
Ma'am, the romantic hero archetype shifted in the 1960s. Your pairing with Dharmendra in films like Anupama, it was often quiet, it was deeply emotional. How did Dharamji's presence, his style, his distinct blend of ruggedness and sensitivity offer in a sense a new sort of romanticism to Bollywood, which was different from the more conventional heroes of the time?
I've not really worked with him. Any of the films that I worked with him wasn't really his rugged, in Satyakam, in Anupama, in Devar, and other films that I have done. They've all been very wonderful. And Chupke Chupke, he was so good. His comic timing was so good. And in my opinion, he should have got the National Award. And it's a mystery why he didn't get it. Because perhaps, they didn't think comic acting was, right for that kind of award. But more than acting, we share a birthday. He was also born on the 8th of December. And it's 8th of December is not far away, and he just went away too soon. But of course, he was suffering, and nobody wants anybody to suffer beyond a point. And he's so much more than an actor. He was a patriarch. He looked after so many people, friends. I don't think anybody has anything to say against him. I'm personally very moved. I've always adored him and liked him, and we worked in wonderful films. So it's very difficult for me to speak about him today because I'm very, very... And I knew that he was critical, but when the time comes, you really... But I recall the times that I have worked, especially during Satyakam, we were surrounded by very angry and very sort of dangerous crowd in Ghatshila, and how he sort of helped me to get away from that crowd and took us all to safety. Not him, the entire unit was there, but it was a very difficult moment. And he, not like a star, he just didn't leave or didn't prioritize himself, but he looked after all of us, and he was very special in every other way.
Ma'am, let's try and talk about your experiences with him in some of the other films where you've co-starred in. Mere Hamdam Mere Dost, your chemistry lit up the screen.
Mere Hamdam Mere Dost, we were shooting.
Ma'am, tell us about that story.
We were shooting for Mere Hamdam Mere Dost, and we were shooting a song called, what was it? What was the title? Chhalka Yeh Jaam. And it was those days, we were shooting 7 to 2 and 2 to 10. So 7 to 2, I was working in another film, and 2 to 10, we were shooting for Mere Hamdam Mere Dost. And by 10 o'clock, we shot till 10 o'clock, but we couldn't finish the song. And the next day, I was going for a test match the West Indies were playing India. So I was scheduled to leave for Kolkata. And Dharam was so good, I requested him to extend. Not only he extended, but we shot till 7 o'clock in the morning. And then I ran to the airport. But I mean, I can't think of any other hero who would have cooperated and done that. He would go for a little while and lie down in his dressing room, then come back and give the shot, and all in good humor. And he would say, well, I hope we win, I hope India wins. But we didn't, of course, we lost to West Indies. But I remember his generosity. He has been a wonderful person to work with.
Ma'am, there were so many films of yours, Chalo Sajna Jahan Tak, where the films are celebrated for their iconic music, for their iconic songs. Could you describe perhaps the atmosphere on set during the filming of those musical numbers? Did his natural charisma and energy influence the way that the song was ultimately shot?
But more than that, I remember Anupama. When he just stands, I mean, unlike any other hero, he just stands with folded arms and sings so well, And in every song, actually, even Chhalka Yeh Jaam, he was there. And what was the film that you mentioned?
Ma'am, I was Chalo Sajna Jahan Tak.
Was that Dharmendra's film?
Yes, ma'am, to the best of my
that was with
knowledge.
Sunil Dutt, huh?
But ma'am, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your other work? Satyakam, for example, the cult classic comedy Chupke Chupke. What made the Dharmendra Sharmila Tagore pairing so effective? Subtle emotion grounded in reality over melodrama?
Because they were very... All our films most of my films that I've done, out of all 7, they've all been very good films. And mainly with Hrishikesh Mukherjee, 3 films with Hrishikesh Mukherjee. Anupama, Chupke Chupke, Satyakam. And he had a beautiful role, and Rishida would joke on the set, said, don't think of yourself as a star with lots of money. This fellow is a very good, honest man, etc. So there was a lot of warmth on the set. I don't think he prioritized me over good acting, and he had a lot of respect for Rishida. So he always wanted to work with Rishida, and it was really lovely to work with him. And which other film? I did another film with him, and I can't really remember now. What was it called? So mainly Satyakam, Anupama, and Chupke Chupke. I think these 3 films were the best out of all the films that I've worked with him.
Ma'am, Dharamji often spoke of Bollywood's golden era.
With the songs were very good.
They defined the films in so many ways. But ma'am, Dharamji often spoke of Bollywood's golden era with a sense of nostalgia, as someone who, someone who bridged commercial and parallel cinema. What do you believe was his most important, perhaps even underrated contribution to evolving storytelling in Indian cinema?
Well, he could adapt himself to any role, really, because like I said, he's worked with Rishida. And those films in Satyakam, for instance, it's a very different kind of a role. And unlike so he fitted in both, the typical heroic, fighting and strong man image to a very soft, gentle person. So he had the ability to switch. And he was very, he didn't take himself very seriously. He didn't call himself a great actor. But he listened to the director, and on the set he was very cooperative. And, always came on time. Once he came very late because he had some issue, and Rishi without him. So he was very apologetic, and after that he was very, very prompt. So the films that I had worked with him, I found that he was excellent to work with. And he brought different, according to the performance, according to the role, whatever the character, whatever was asked of him, he did that beautifully.
Yeah. Ma'am, in the decades, there have been so many decades of your collaborations. Was there ever a script, a project, perhaps a story that you wish you could have done with Dharmendra, one that never materialized?
No, I don't recall anything like that. Any film? No. I don't know whether I was considered and dropped. I have no idea. But whatever roles that came to me with Dharam, I always accepted.
Ma'am, your paths crossed in the vibrant 60s. The 70s had a different feel. Tell us about some of your light-hearted moments off set, perhaps over tea, chai, that revealed the man behind the He-Man persona.
He was always very relaxed and very happy, and always will talk about his, his life before the films, and his when he was working as a construction engineer or something. Like I remember how he had to get into deep water and for repairing something. So he talked. He was always very jovial and very very warm on the set. It was great fun to work with him. And he would laugh at himself, and Rishida would make fun of him or tease him, and he would be very good about it. He never took offense, and he didn't take himself seriously. That's what I liked about him, that he was very, and then of course he was so helpful. He had this large family. He was really the patriarch, the Papaji, and he just with family and friends, he had that responsibility of taking care of people. And of course he was very fond of his brother Ajit, and he was a little scared of him also. Like Ajit came to the set and said, "This has to be done," and he would say, "Yes, I'll have to follow. I'll listen to." So he was very devoted to his family, extremely devoted. Not just his own children, but his extended young ones. So.
Ma'am, fans cherish his action hero great in films like Sholay, but you knew his softer side. You've spoken a little bit about that. Could you share perhaps a memory that captures his vulnerability, perhaps, from a quieter film like Anupama? Was he vulnerable in a certain way?
I think, yes, he was. Most certainly, he was a very soft person. He would think about it, he would get hurt. Yes, and he has shown vulnerable, in Satyakam, in many places, he looks very, very vulnerable. So he wasn't that Iron Man that he wasn't without, he had a lot of feelings and a lot of affection and care. He cared. So of course he felt. But I think he was also, he preferred to be joyous, somebody moans and groans and whatever. He was never uncaring, he felt for others. But he was also joyous. He laughed. He was used to, I think, he had not an easy childhood, I don't think. No. He made himself, he came to the top. So I think he remembered his past very well. He didn't deny any aspect of it. And that made him a better person. He was very easy with his comfortable with his success and his all that, whatever, money, everything. But he never really, at least I don't know, he didn't show off or behaved star-like, and he had that very charming, disarming smile, self-deprecating smile, which I liked. I thought of it as that, yes.
With Dharamji's passing, it's going to be, it's fresh on our minds now, it'll be that way for a while. Give us a sense of how you've seen the industry change over all of these years, and what sort of lessons from his resilience do you hope that young actors, for example, your granddaughter, Sarah, will carry forward in their own careers?
Yes, of course, and Abhay was a great actor, is a good actor, but he doesn't work in many, as many films that I'd like to see him work in. He's a brilliant actor, and of course there's Sunny, and they will carry his legacy forward as actors, producers, and all that. But ask that question again. You asked me something else before that. You asked 2-3 questions together.
No, ma'am, I was asking about his sense of resilience in his career. And as somebody who's seen the industry change along with him for a period of so many decades, is there anything from the way he was resilient in sort of moving from an industry that dramatically changed from the 60s, 70s, 80s onwards, that you would, sort of pass on to your own grandchildren and say, look, this was the strength of a man, and this is something that's worth replicating?
He accepted what came his way, he didn't resist anything, and he didn't lose his stature. He went to the farm, he was happy with his farming and tractors, and so he had another place to relax and be himself. Always long for company and stardom. His farm was there, his family was there, and his own, his exercise, he liked doing there. Then even abroad, he was very popular in Arizona when I went there. Everybody was talking about him. He had lots of friends. But more than that, you can see at least I felt the goodwill that he has. There's so much goodwill for him. And why is that? Because he has been kind to he's helped them when they needed it. He has given of himself. So, to look after a big family and be warm to everybody, it's not easy, because we often become selfish, and it's not that he's deprived himself, but he's also taken care. When you think of a patriarch, when you think of a man of the house, I think Dharam is executed all those duties and all those responsibilities.
Ma'am, Dharamji balanced stardom with politics and family life that you spoke about quite effortlessly. He was more than just an actor. He was a political leader. He was somebody who appealed to the masses in very different ways. Could you tell us a little bit about, how he navigated stardom?
I can't imagine. I know that he dabbled in politics, but I cannot see him as a politician. I just remember Dharam as Dharam. I don't know how good a politician he was, but yes, his connect with the audience was great. His connect with people was great, and I'm sure he won their hearts. He's always won their hearts, but politics is something else.
Ma'am, is it true that if you were a part of Karan Johar's Rocky or Rani Ki Prem Kahani, and you had the opportunity of being sort of paired with Dharamji in it, is that something that you may have liked?
Well, Karan me to that role, but I am a cancer survivor. and I had comorbidity. And during COVID, when Karan was shooting, I was very scared to take a commercial flight. I was advised by my doctors also not to do that, because I would have been, vulnerable to. So those days were before the vaccine, so I had to regret the film. And of course I wanted to work with Dharam, but this issue kept me back.
Ma'am, one final question.
I wish I had.
You wish you had. We wish you had as well, ma'am. A final question, is there anything that you would like to share about Dharamji as we begin wrapping up this conversation?
The entire nation is mourning him. Since morning, I've received many calls from, of course, the newspaper journalists and people who knew that I knew Dharam. So he's an institution, and I think he will be remembered for a very, very long time. Not just because of his acting, but as the human being that he was, the total person, his contribution. And I'm sure there are many things we do not know also what he did, the good things that he did. So I think in many ways he will be remembered and cherished. And as I said, I share his birthday. So on the 8th of December, most certainly I will feel a bit lonelier, because Dharam won't be there to celebrate his birthday, wherever else may be, but that connected us. He was 10 years older, but on 8th December, we shared a birthday. So I will miss him.
We all will, ma'am, and thank you so much for sparing time and speaking so passionately about somebody who's been so close to you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much indeed.